Riley Dean running things alongside Matautia in the halves, I thought we might have been in for a tough day, but I needn't have been worried. Dean had a blinder, Josh Hewlett was imperious, and the whole team put on a dominant professional display, with a sprinkling of razzle-dazzle in the spring sunshine. Huddersfield looked fatigued and had a bad case of the dropsies, which helped us out no end too. Buzzing.
Neil Ormston says, perhaps we should play all matches, third game in 9 days without any of our pivots. Most controlled display of the year, with the key ball players linking well. Not sure we expected to say that about Dean and Thewlis rather than Widdop and Williams. Keep the kids in for Wigan and let the so-called stars wait for their chance. For a club that allegedly doesn't develop talent, all 32 points came from academy products. It's a fair point.
Rich Owen said, great performance from the lads today, much more like it. With a few players missing, Thewlis, Wrench and Riley Dean really stepped up to the plate and were fantastic. On to Wigan on Friday night, more hopeful than I was a couple of weeks ago. Can see a big improvement from the lads recently. Come on the wire. And EFC78JU got in a late one, he said. Brilliant this time. They've defo bounced back from that Easter Monday defeat at Humberside against Hull FC to a Huddersfield team that were quite decent this season, but they just couldn't get anything out of some of the Warrington B team. That's the Thewlis got a hat-trick and Riley Dean did not bad on the kicking.
Deep breath.
Yeah, it turns out it isn't about one of Widdop or Williams being out. It's about getting both of them out of there. Put your salary cap in the stands, and you start winning.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know if that was as much about a tired Huddersfield side that couldn't keep hold of the ball, but you've got to give credit to the young spine, certainly the young half and fullback. That Riley Dean was in control, and Thewlis was in full try-poaching form as well. So you could tell these two probably know each other a bit. They like playing together clearly, so that's a positive for Warrington, like the guys have said.
Yeah, and certainly Thewlis played, I watched the tries and Thewlis played really, really well. I mean, he was very impressive. Whilst no doubt Huddersfield were fatigued, Warrington's pack must be reasonably fatigued as well. So, you've got to say, we've given Warrington, I certainly have given Warrington a lot of stick this year. I think they've been really poor, but that's a good performance. That's a really good performance, and has got to be encouraging for them ahead of what's a pretty titanic tussle they've got coming on Friday night.
Yeah, I would say too, like Matautia isn't anyone's permanent answer at halfback for any team at all, but what he does know is the roles in a Daryl Powell attack, so he knows what Powell is looking for. And I think it sort of suggested to me, because even though he wasn't the guy with the final pass or finishing off the play, he did seem to have his hands on the ball in every single piece of highlights I saw of this game. And maybe players like Matautia and Holmes need to take a greater position of seniority at Wire. Maybe the non-Powell players might need to start looking up to the Powell players to get things clicking for them, rather than thinking, who are you coming in telling us? They need to think, we're not getting there, we're not smashing this out of the park, so maybe we need to take a step back and think, our employers have told us that this guy's the guy that's going to get us there, and start maybe taking their lead down that. I don't know, maybe.
But to further point, Mark, it certainly hasn't been working well so far. It certainly worked well in this game. Warrington need to understand why and see whether they can replicate that.
One final point on Wire that I do think might be an answer why, David, is I think putting Mulhern in from the start with Cooper for now a few games in a row, it seems like it's got their pack a bit closer to where it should be.
Yeah, a bit more stiffness in the spine.
And maybe that rest weekend before the Easter programme has helped their pack get through this period as well. They won't have been, although they've played 3 games in 9 days, they had 2 weeks off before that, whereas, for example, Wigan and Wakefield had played on the Sunday and then had to play 3 games in the next 2 weeks. On top of that, and Saints had been at Catalans in an intense game on the Saturday, and then had to play 3 games in 2 weeks after that. So Warrington maybe had some chance to restock their batteries before the tough period, which is a point. The Giants had played in the Cup as well, hadn't they? So
yeah, they have. I mean, Warrington were also helped by Jack Cogger spending half the first half sat on the bench.
Yes.
For the rare double yellow card in the first half of the game.
And Tuilola here seeming to take his inspiration for defending in this game from Lee Gaskell's performance against Wigan on Easter Monday for Wakefield, because there were some weak efforts by the Giants. I mean, that sort of Gaskell-esque complete disappearance in defence by Lola here in the build-up to the first Cogger sin bin in.
Yeah.
What was that? And actually, talking of those two players, Tuilola here has got a grade B tripping charge, 1 match penalty notice for him, so it was deemed to be the same offence as what Luke Gale had done the week before for Hull FC, but Lola here hasn't got the same record that Gale has. And Jack Cogger got a grade C other contrary behaviour, 2 match penalty notice. That'll have been for the sliding in with the knees, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was the second yellow card that he got, and it a well-deserved yellow card as well.
Yeah, it was well late.
Completely unnecessary.
And Chris Hill got a grade B dangerous contact, 1 match penalty notice. So Lola here and Hill will get a chance to have a rest before their Challenge Cup semi-final. But I guess Huddersfield will be hoping Farge will be back anyway, in which case it'll be Russell and Farge. So Cogger's suspension doesn't matter for the semi-final. Huddersfield Giants outside back Innes Senior has extended his contract to the end of the 2024 season. I think he's been ever present, hasn't he, for Huddersfield this year, and he's scored another try this week.
Yeah, scored a good try this week.
Scored a good try against Leeds, didn't he, as well, to get that game all square like the week before. He's improved. He's certainly, if there was a question about which was the better senior, I think that's been answered this season with Innes being the clear frontrunner in that race.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And Jack Hughes has picked up a knock, and he's going to be out for 4 months. He got hurt in the clash with Hull on Monday. That's a blow for Warrington, because he's an important part of, not only as captain, but he's an important part of how they work across the back row. Yeah,
he's kind of the engine room, hard-working player, isn't he? In there, along with a couple of other guys, but he does a lot of their tackling, and unfortunately within that he's picked up a shoulder injury, so long spell out there for Hughes, which is not good.
Not good.
Okay, let's move on to Sunday, where Channel 4 displayed for all of us the J Field show, good and bad, as Wigan beat Salford 30 points to 24. It was 24-12 at half-time for Wigan, so you would have expected him to see that advantage home, but it wasn't to be, and it in the end came down to the final couple of minutes. 10,783 was the crowd figure. Marcus Griffiths was the referee. In terms of the team stats, Wigan made more metres at a better average game with 2 more breaks, but also 2 more errors. Wigan also had a 4.5% better team tackle success rate, with Salford's coming in actually just a sliver under 90%. So from the stats, you would say Wigan were deserved winners, but they only just won.
Yeah, for the winning team, the ubiquitous Jai Field, 2 tries, 5 tackle busts, 245 metres and 2 clean breaks. Not bad.
That's the stat line of the week. We don't need to talk about it later. It's there.
Bevan French, 9 tackle busts, 140 metres. Cade Ellis, 1 try, 115 metres. John Bateman, 1 try assist, 111 metres, and 3 offloads. For the losing Salford team, Ken Seo with his traditional try in 183 metres. Callum Watkins, 10 tackle busts and 138 metres. Nice to see Callum Watkins back playing again. Brodie Croft, 2 try assists and 114 metres. And Alex Gerrard, 1 try, 40 tackles and 15 of those from marker.
Yeah, Matt Speakman said, important to get the win after a difficult Easter period. It's usually the third game that gets teams. Was lucky enough to be in hospitality for a friend's birthday, and Pete came in unannounced after the game because he wanted to show his appreciation before 2 months without a home game. He spoke very well and was very optimistic about the rebuild. Overall, there's a lot more positivity at the DW this year.
Neil Ormston, bizarre choice by Channel 4. Was always going to be a low-quality blowout between two mismatched teams post-Easter. Oh, hang on a minute. Is this a sign of rugby league finally getting a break? An entertaining open match with some standout highlights also shows we have the individual stars to spotlight. There's a template here for how rugby league in this country can be showcased. Credit to all involved.
Tom Andrews said, didn't get to see most of the game due to work, but have to say J Field is pure entertainment. As a neutral, I haven't seen a player as entertaining to see for a long time. Could say since Ben Barber, but he was a cock.
He was. White Pie, well, the third game of the Easter hangover hit Wigan today with a lot of missed tackles, some poor ruck defence that allowed Salford to create some chances. Jai showed the Channel 4 viewers that he's not that good and only has pace. TM, Saints fans. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have got that trademark. When he sliced open the right edge to score Wigan's first, an excellent cutout from Brad O'Neill saw Ellis get his first try before the Pearl, and Harry Smith added 2 more tries. The sides went in 24-12 to Wigan at half-time, and Salford pulled it back to 24-all. Both sides butchered good chances, not least Jai Field with the most, I'll come to that later, the most ridiculous cutout pass with a 5-man overlap. But anyway, both sides...
He could have ran it himself, let alone pass it.
Anyone.
Anyway.
I mean, it was much, much more difficult not to score before Field won the match brilliantly, using his pace to take an attempted skirt drop goal 5 metres out from our line and skidding the approaching left edge of the Salford defence to score under the sticks. Nothing but pace, though, apparently, although that was pace. But anyway, Salford were excellent value and will win more than they lose. I think that's being a bit optimistic, actually. I'm not sure Salford will win more than they lose.
Yeah, I have a big question with Salford whether they'll score more tries than they concede. That's my issue with them, but they're going to be involved in some high-scoring games. Jen K said...
That's for sure.
Yeah. Jen K said, fabulous game at the DW. Hard to tell what impact losing Zach had on this performance, as others were also missing, like Powell and Singleton. We did look a bit clueless in parts, but I worried we might sleepwalk into a loss. Salford had a few missing as well, but put in a strong performance. Exciting game and a great win.
It was an exciting game, wasn't it? I mean, I only saw the highlights, Mark, but it looked very entertaining.
Oh, do you know what? I can't... I'm not sure how many times I've watched J Field's winning try now, but
a lot, I'm guessing.
Probably, a dozen or so times, probably, including at the stadium live. But I was watching all the highlights of all the games again just before we record, like I normally do, just to make sure there's nothing I forget to mention, kind of thing. And even then, like on the 12th or 15th or whatever viewing. Even now talking about it, I'm just smiling. It's just amazing. It's just incredible.
It wasn't bad, Mark. He did quite well. I'd watch back the one he butchered. That's the one I was interested in.
Well, this is the thing. He showed his speed and his brilliance again. With the try, the start. 5 or 6 minutes into the game, and the try that won the game 2 minutes left in the game. But similarly, he did miss 3 try assists. Well, you could say he got 1 try assist, but that was for the wrong side. But yeah, on those though, I don't know if the blame is fully on Field with those, because I do think the wingers were a touch flat as well, especially that second one, like you say, when he was a 4-on. So you might not have seen the first one where the pass went just behind Bevan French, but Field had kind of got caught up in a tackle, and maybe that delayed the pass a bit, so French kind of overrun it and then couldn't catch it in. And it was very similar, but just the other side of the pitch and less of an overlap, but it would have been a walking try for Field, for French, after French had done an amazing run up which you'll have seen on the highlights, where he got covered about 50 or so metres, where he in and out. Really didn't know which way he was turning. They were all falling over through dizziness, but just about recovered at the goal line. But yeah, touch too flat. The wingers could have been hanging back a little bit more, but yeah. Go on, you wanted to talk about how shit we were on that play. We butchered it just like we butchered the opening set against you.
I don't. I was just trying